Hi all, welcome back to the final whistle then. So tonight is another special show where we chat with Leicester City correspondent for The Athletic, Rob Tanner, as he gives us insight into all your questions regarding the transfer window and what is happening with PSR and all that. We are going to ask Rob. Sorry we are late. Me and Rob have just had a chat backstage and that about certain things. What we are going to cover up this show. We're going to talk about Leicester City's season as well, coming up in the Premier League. We're going to ask Rob about pre-season and where Steve Cooper needs to strengthen. What's happening at our football club is the main thing. Get your questions in. Whatever you've got to ask Rob, get them in. And I will get as many of the questions to him as possible. Jordan Ayew will be chatting about Steven Bergwijn, Wilfried Zaha, Fotis Ioannidis, it will be another one. Adam Cizek, another one from Bayer Leverkusen who's been linked with Leicester City. We're going to chat about everybody, even ones we've missed out on and players that could be sold this transfer window. But guys, as always, get involved. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this stream. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed already. Please get down and do so. There's so many of you in the chat tonight, so I'm expecting a lot of questions from you lot. Welcome to the show. Hi Jack, the second round draw is tomorrow. It is. Hi all. Hello Dunk, how are you mate? Hello Jack, how are we doing? Any more on Zaha? But we're going to get that to Rob Tanner. We've just been chatting about Mr. Wilfried Zaha. Honestly, where do you think we'll finish this season? Well, we're going to ask that to Rob. Better late than never though, Duncan, to make sure everything's in place for the show. This time last year you said Maresca was cooking. He was. We ended up winning the championship. Steve Cooper, well, we'll have to wait and see. Then maybe look what happened to Maresca later on in the season. Good evening, Jack. Good evening. Keep the faith. Evening, Terry. Evening to everybody. I'm good, thank you. Has it started? Yes, it has. TikTok, Archie Cox. Well, we are live now, mate, so be sure to go and get yourself a drink, mate, and a nice cup of tea and that, and put your feet up and let's go. What's happening? Zaha. Evening all. Hope everyone's okay. Good. Cutting it fine with these transfers again. Well, you know what Leicester's like. They leave things last minute, but they are working hard behind the scenes, is what I've been told by Rob. So, you know, we're going to get into it all. You know, you lot want a lot of things answering, and I've got the man to do the job for that. So, yeah. Hello, mate. How are you? It'd be good to understand what Rob thinks about the current transfer structure looks like. Yeah. Evening, Jack. Hello from Paul Dorset. Fantastic. Evening, Jack. Getting excited now. Will it all come together? Well, let's bloody hope it does. Let's get in, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Jack. I'm fine, mate. Thank you.
Very good. Rob, let everybody know then what you do regarding Leicester City and the Athletic, mate.
Well, I'm the Leicester City correspondent and I do a bit of England as well for the Athletic, and it's the 16th season that I've been covering Leicester. So, and every season there's been something dramatic and something to write about, and I'm sure this season is going to be no different. It's going to be another dramatic and probably very challenging season.
Yeah, it's always a roller coaster in a challenging season when you watch Leicester, isn't it, Rob? As you'd know, covering Leicester for all these years. Highs and lows is what you'd expect. Rob, welcome to the show. It's been a while since we've chatted. I think we chatted with you before certain Steve Cooper came into the club.
Yeah.
New manager, new ideas, transfer window. We're going to cover it all. But let's talk about the first one, which was today. And it was from John Percy. PSR. I mean, everyone wants to know what's happening with PSR. A lot of questions get asked, don't they, regarding PSR, and they feel that the smaller teams get overlooked by the Premier League and the big teams get helped. And, but John Percy's reported today Leicester City's row with the Premier League over breaching PSR could drag into next year. No swift resolution expected with a prospect of appeals / legal procedural delays. Leicester believe they have a strong case, though, despite threat of points deduction. What do you make of what John Percy said?
I wouldn't. John's a great journalist who's worked this patch for a number of years. He's very well connected. And my understanding of the PSR situation is that Leicester have still not heard anything about when the hearing will take place. They are confident they are fighting on a question of jurisdiction of not of whether they have breached PSR, because they've admitted that in their own financial accounts that they possibly could have done. But what they're trying to say is, who has the right to charge us? We were a Premier League club, and then we were relegated. Then you changed the rules after we dropped into the EFL, and then the EFL tried to charge us, but we were a Premier League team when this alleged breach take place. So the EFL haven't got jurisdiction. So you see the situation at the moment where they're sort of countercharging the Premier League and the EFL and fighting a very strong legal battle. There's no. I mean, unlike Forest and to an extent Everton, where they've sort of gone, yeah, okay, we admit that we made this mistake, or we've done this and that, and they've got points back for that. I don't think there'll be any question of mitigation, because Leicester are fighting hard. So yeah, he's right in the fact that it could drag on for a very long time, with legal actions going back and forth. I mean, the lawyers must be rubbing their hands because they're going to make a fortune out of this case. The whole PSR situation needs a dramatic looking at for me. It just doesn't seem to be fit for purpose at the moment. I mean, you're seeing teams like Aston Villa who have built a team, and Leicester to an extent have been building a team and squad for a number of years, and now having to dismantle it to some extent to try and avoid a breach of PSR. So it's a really murky, difficult saga in football. Really, it's not doing the game any favors. I mean, I have heard some financial experts saying to me as well that really Leicester might be on thin ice in terms of their arguments. So I mean, I'll be doing a piece next week on it, but there will be some twists and turns between now and whenever we find out. I mean, there's a chance that Leicester might be able to argue they fall down the cracks in some way due to their unexpected relegation. But I think there's also an element that, if you kick the can down the road long enough, then that could alleviate some of the impact of the deductions. Man City have certainly been kicking the cans so far down the road. It's still bouncing now, and nobody knows when their cases are going to be genuinely going to be resolved. So it's just a murky part of football at the moment.
It is. It does go on to say, though, that Leicester's defence are hopeful of being deducted no more than 6 points. Leicester are expected to argue the losses from the 22-23 season when, of course, they had manager Brendan Rodgers. It was a result of mitigating circumstances such as an unforeseen relegation, the unplanned expenditure of sacking Brendan Rodgers, which were £8 million a year we paid him, plus an estimated £30 million deficit from finishing 18th.
Yeah, that's exactly right. That's part of their argument. They didn't expect to be in a relegation scrap. They were budgeting for European football. They didn't expect to have to sack their the manager that had got them into that situation where they were challenging for Europe every season. But this is football, isn't it? You can have a bad season, And that's certainly the case there. Yeah, and when you have a bad season, inevitably you sack your manager. And if you're making the highest paid manager in your club's history, that's going to cost you a few bob to get rid of him. So that's all part of it. But yeah, that will certainly be part of their argument. Absolutely. I mean, they budgeted for 8th, not 18th that season. So that cost them £30 million.
Yeah, it's cost a lot of money. Rob, talk to me about pre-season. Obviously, they beat Villarreal, didn't they? Beat Shrewsbury. Palermo weren't the greatest to game. Neither was the Lens game. They lost 3 on the bounce in the last 3 pre-season games. Talk to me about pre-season. I mean, how is Steve Cooper tried different things, and what's gone on with Leicester in pre-season?
Well, to be honest, Jack, I had to take a bit of time off this summer for medical reasons, but I've been back and I've caught up with the Augsburg game, and then obviously, like a lot of Leicester fans, I sat and watched the Lens game at the weekend, and it's been difficult. I mean, they've had 2 training camps. I mean, the whole pre-season had to be changed. I mean, Enzo wanted a certain plan for the pre-season. He didn't want to go to America for the pre-season tour that Leicester originally signed up for. The irony is that he went to Chelsea and then spent most of the pre-season in America. But that losing Enzo was a big blow to them. They weren't expecting that. They were invested heavily in him. I mean, they took a risk on him because he was a very talented coach but inexperienced manager, and they'd just gone down to the Championship, so they needed some stability. So that was a gamble, and certainly it paid off. But what he did last summer was he locked the squad basically at Seagrave and drilled his plan into them over a good few weeks, and then we saw them hit the ground running. Difference is this season you got the turmoil losing Enzo when you're making plans with Enzo for the pre-season. Then you got to find your new manager. You bring Steve Cooper in, he's got different ideas, although he's trying to play in a similar way with some real tweaks to the system. And it's taking time. And above all, they've lost a number of players, key players. I mean, Keane Dewsbury Hall's gone, Dennis Pratt, Kelechi Iheanacho, Marco Brighton. These are all players with experience. And so far, except for Bobby Deek or Diva Reed, all the lads that are coming in have got very little experience, and certainly of the Premier League. So you could argue the squad right now, as it stands, going into the season, is even weaker than it was the one that finished the Championship season. So that seems to be the cause for concern. And more than that, I mean, last season, when we watched the Liverpool game, for example, in Singapore, they got heavily beaten by a very, very good Liverpool team, but you watch the first 30 minutes of that and you could see what the plan was, what they were trying to do. You could see a glimpse of the future. But as it stands at the moment, you look at the games now and they're not creating anything. They can't control possession. Admittedly, they're playing a better opposition in pre-season than they usually would play. But you can't see the progress at the moment. And that's the worry.
Yeah, it's a big worry, isn't it, Rob, when you've got things like that happening. What's been your main sort of aspect on the Lens game? Obviously, people talk about the team is clearly not strong enough. It's not Premier League ready. Obviously, you made the comment yourself, didn't you, on social media during the Lens game? And I mean, the Lens game, obviously, the European side aren't the Lens. Leicester side, it were like square pegs in round holes, wasn't it? Steve Cooper were playing people out of position, and obviously losing Daka to injury, and obviously the strike force at the minute has not really got many options, has it, regarding that? Obviously, we're already injured. You questioned about, I think it was about the Mavididi coming on for Daka rather than Cannon, and it's like, what did you make of the whole scenario regarding the?
Well, first, the first change that I noticed was he's trying to play a similar system in terms of when in possession they go to a back 3 and you have 2 holding players in front, and then that releases the front 5 to go and do the damage in the final third. But whereas under Enzo, you had the right back, Ricardo Pereira, stepping in alongside Harry Winks, and then the front 5 that go and attack are all natural attacking players.
Yeah.
Steve seems to have Victor Christiansen playing from left back, then going and playing as a left winger. And I don't think he's got the composure in the final third. He hasn't got the natural attacking instincts to be able to pick a pass, pick a cross. And so it just seems a little bit disjointed at the moment. So Stefan Mavridis, who's naturally very good wide, he's coming into the inside channel. So him and Diva Reed play as 2/8s. And Fatal comes in off the right flank.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to be gelling at the moment. And we've even had Ndidi playing as a 10. I mean, I thought playing as a high 8 was a push for Ndidi, but he did it very well in the championship. But to play him as a 10 just seems really odd for me. So it just seems a little bit like they're feeling the way. They're trying to. I know preseason's about experimenting, but it just feels like there isn't. He hasn't got it clear in his mind yet what he wants to do with this. He's still finding out about these players. But one thing he does know, he needs recruits. Desperately needs some new recruits coming in.
For sure. Talk to me about some of the players Leicester have, of course, been linked with. Obviously, we'll get onto Zaha and that later. The ones that have been linked this week. But talk to me about the ones that haven't happened. Obviously, Leicester have been linked with quite a lot of players, haven't they, the last few weeks? Reece Nelson and Stephen Bergwijn, another one. And
Soulé that went to Roma. I mean, I have to commend Leicester a little bit. They've been very ambitious coming back in to the Premier League. You know, they're still trying to shop in a market where really they probably haven't quite got enough credit to be shopping in that market. You know, so to try and compete with Roma for a player, and then, you know, unsurprisingly, he's not come, because ultimately footballers are freelancers. You know, you can have the best training grounds, you can have a great vibe around the camp, whatever, and that's all great, and that they could be the icing on the cake. But what really gets a player interested is how much you're going to pay him. And if you haven't got the budget to compete with some of the sides, like, you know, and you're going for top players, it's going to be very, very difficult. I think, you know, they've made a lot of inquiries, as you would expect. So likes of Reece Nelson at Arsenal, I think it quickly became apparent that wasn't going to fit their budget. Then they
Let me just turn my camera off. I'm still listening.
That's all right, mate. Then Carvalho at Liverpool, you know, they made an inquiry and tried to go for him, but Brentford, because of their status in the Premier League, which Leicester had a few years ago, have you know, they're in a stronger position to get that deal over the line and pay what's required in that situation. So they're still trying on a number of fronts with a number of players. I'm sure you're going to throw some names at me in a minute, Jack. But it's not been easy for them. It's not been easy for them. I mean, they're going into the season at the moment, and there's only really, with Jamie Vardy injured, there's only really Bobby Diva Reed who has genuine Premier League experience in that front line. Stefan Mavridis come out, obviously got something to prove because he came through Arsenal, had to go abroad to really make his name. Abdul, we know, is a great talent. Then you got Michael Golding and the Argentinian lad that's coming from Brighton, that's competing for 10s, but they're both teenagers. So they really need some know-how, some experience there. And sorry, my dog's snoring like mad behind me. You can hear that if you could pick that up. But yeah, it's not ideal at the moment. They certainly need 2 or 3 players with experience and quality that can come in and make a difference. Otherwise, I fear that this squad might be undercooked.
Yeah, the thing is with the squad, it's kind of been difficult, hasn't it? Obviously, Steve Cooper, when they asked him after the launch game, he closer to bringing any players in. Was Reece Nelson and them types of players the ones that he was referring to was close to getting done, who they had to move on from for other players?
No, they had to move on from Reece Nelson because it wasn't viable. It just wasn't, you know, how much you want for him, how much does he want? I mean, this is the thing, Sam. I mean, fans might think that it's pretty straightforward to get a deal done. You just go in and pay whatever is expected. But obviously, you know, they ask him, it's about negotiation, and a lot of the asking prices are pretty high at the start of negotiations, then it's like haggling in a souk. You want that top shelf item, but you've got to barter for it and negotiate, and it can sometimes be a drawn out process. Whereas sometimes they're straightforward and they happen very, very quickly. I mean, every transfer seems to be unique in terms of the process that people go through to get these done. But I think they've found that some of the targets they've been going for are a little bit out of their reach at the moment, and the ones that have been easy to do are the younger lads that clubs don't mind. Don't mind getting out on loan. They get something back for that because these young players are going to get some experience, or you like with PSR, like Chelsea with Golding, you got to sell a homegrown talent, and that helps you balance the books.
Yeah, fair point. Talk to me about some of the names that have been mentioned, Rob. I mean, Leicester fans, they've spoken. Obviously, a lot of reports keep getting leaked, don't they, of different players, and from obviously Italian medias and other medias, as you'd expect, and you don't know which report to actually believe regarding
agents talk a lot as well, Jack. Agents talk a lot.
Yeah, is that kind of like move the player on?
To generate interest. Sometimes it's absolute genuine, genuine information. Sometimes it's, it can be, for their interest and their clients' interest. But I mean, there inevitably is every transfer window a number of names that when you check out, and you might take you a bit of time to check them out and get people and then they turn around and say, no, there's nothing in that. That's happened numerous times, but there's also names that are out there because Leicester have inquired about them. That doesn't inevitably mean that they are going to get a deal done, but they have inquired of their availability. As I said, Reece Nelson, Carvalho, Steven Bergwijn at Ajax. There has been genuine interest. Wilfried Zaha, we ran that on Friday. I think it was Friday night. We ran the Zaha link again. David Ornstein. He is the Zen master of transfer stories. David. He's brilliant at it. I don't think there's anybody quite like him. I mean, I think I've seen him. He must own about 3 or 4 phones. He's prolific. Flotis, this at Panathinaikos, the Greek striker. There's interest in him. As you've heard as well. Hozlek, the lad at Bayer Leverkusen, the players are 10, players are 9. They would, and there will be more names that haven't come out that they've inquired about, and I'm perhaps trying to work on right now as well, because the need is so great. I mean, you could see and hear the desperation in Cooper after the long, couldn't you? The way he was saying, look, the players need more recruits. We want more signings coming in. I mean, there's 2.5 weeks left to go, so there's plenty of time to do business. I think they might not be ready for Tottenham, but you might go into that game with Stefan Mavididi as your number 9. But that doesn't mean to say they're not working on stuff behind the scenes and trying to get things done. But I think Leicester find themselves in a more difficult situation now because of the financial impact of relegation.
Yeah, that's how it's kind of like come across, hasn't it? With how much we've lost. We were competing for Europe many years ago, weren't we? But then we look at us fast forward to now, and it's like, what do we actually do in the situation, isn't it?
But it's very different to, after they won the Premier League title, that they could go out and spend £30 million on Islam Samani on transfer deadline day. They're not in that situation now. Those days of those, they've got to build back to that. I mean, they've fallen a long way. They're slowly progressing back. So that's unrealistic. So when you see some of these Leicester in for a £30 million player, not financially, there's an impact from relegation. They've got to crawled slowly back, and they can't pay 100 million, £100,000 a week for players anymore. They've got to cut the budget, PSR as well. They've taken a big giant step backwards. So they are probably not far off back where they were when they first came back into the Premier League 10 years ago in terms of that. Although there's a lot more structure off the pitch, they've done a lot more progress around the club. But in terms of the money they can spend in budgets and stuff like that, they've taken a big hit. I mean, they could do with a Cambiasso, couldn't they? Could we all do with a Cambiasso being pulled out the hat? That would be a huge benefit for them, because they need some real genuine quality and experience.
Obviously, Facundo came in from Brighton, season-long loan, obligation to buy at the end of it. I mean, we've had Argentinians at the club, haven't we, Rob? As you know, with Leonardo Ulloa, Cambiasso, and I think they're the players you kind of look at and think, you know what, these are the types of players they've achieved at Leicester. I think he'll take that one step to think I can do that as well. I think. What's your thoughts on the signing of Facundo?
He's 19 years old and he hasn't played a lot of football at senior level. So I would have my concerns that Leicester were, banking on him to be the lad that if he delivers, he's a bonus player. Like Michael Golding, I've studied Michael Golding stuff using Scout.
Is he like a first team player, do you reckon, or do you think he'll be more for the under 23s? I know he played against West Brom, didn't he?
There's no point chucking him in the under 21s because he's done that at Chelsea. He might as well stayed at Chelsea and played under 21 football. He's coming to play senior football.
Yeah.
But you've got to be careful with these youngsters. I mean, the Argentina lad 19, Golding 18. They're young kids, and you've got Abdul, who's 20 now. I'm sorry, Fatou, who's 20 now.
Yeah.
As I said, Mavididi hasn't got a massive amount of Premier League experience either. It's all right blooding these youngsters and finding out what they're made of at this level. Yeah. You need some experience around them to help them. Otherwise, they won't succeed. I mean, earlier tonight, I was doing another show, and they were saying about Wayne Rooney. And I said, yeah, but Rooney had talent around him. That helped him, experience around him. I mean, Duncan Ferguson at Everton, he had Van Nistelrooy at Man United,
Yeah.
People that can grab him and say, don't do this, calm down, stay calm in these situations and cool-headed. And also he was a bit of a freak of nature for his age, wasn't he? He was like a bull. But Jamie Vardy being in the side and being fit would certainly help the youngsters around him, because he would tell them and talk to them. I mean, he's been through it, so that would help. But yeah, they're talents, but I hope Leicester aren't relying on them. I hope that they bring somebody in that's seasoned.
Talk to me about a specific man. Obviously, I did mention him to John Rudkin. Obviously, comes under a lot of scrutiny and a lot of criticism with Leicester fan John Rudkin, which is, I guess, is fair, because everyone's open to criticism, which you can expect in football. And, talk to me about the job he does and, is it fair that the criticism he has received regarding the whole how fast these transfers are being moved on and this, that, and the other, and missing out on targets?
Well, yeah, he's risen to a position of power. Football club. He is the most powerful football person at the football club. He does a lot of the negotiations for these deals. So, he's incredibly busy at this time of year. So when they fail in the transfer market, then the criticism of all the hierarchy at the football club over the last few years has been justified, and they have to take that on the chin. That's a fact of life. With John, I mean, the piece I did recently, I've been working on for, believe it or not, for 2 years.
Really?
Because this was before the relegation season. That summer, somebody said to me, his story is like a Jamie Vardy story. So I thought, I'll have a look at that then. I'll try and speak to people that have worked with him, who's coached, and he is a human being at the end of the day. I know he seems to be a pariah figure with some fans at the moment, but he started volunteering in the academy when he was working in the building trade as a rep. and then he just got paid expenses. But his passion was coaching. He grew up in Leicestershire and played briefly in the academy. Played for Leicester United. That now defunct, I think, that non-league club. But his passion was for coaching, and he did very well. Matt Piper spoke incredibly highly of him. Guy Branston spoke incredibly highly of what he did for them, not just as players but as people. And then obviously when he took over as academy manager, Mickey Adams made sure he was appointed for that, because he thought, he was very well connected in Leicestershire. And he did very, very well for the academy. I mean, you look at the players that the academy produced that go on to play first team level, got category 1 status. And then, obviously he got promoted when Terry Robinson was. So it's the story of his development, really, this article. It's not like an analysis of what he has or hasn't done right. Mm-hmm. But there is criticisms in there that, they are addressed and what people have criticised him for. But he stepped up for director of football, and he's no experience of that role. He's taken it on.
Which you can be very...
He was director of football when they won the title. He was director of football when they won the FA Cup. He was director of football when they qualified for Europe. So, there are some, positives on his CV in that role. Yeah. But in recent years, there's been some, negatives, and that's why he's getting criticised for it now. But so it's a big time for him as well to get these deals over. But I'll tell you how it works a little bit in terms of transfer. The manager, I mean, and obviously this would have been disrupted this year because we've had a change of manager. Mm-hmm. The manager will say to the head of recruitment, which is now Martin Glover, this is what we need in the squad, in this area, this area, and this area. Can bring me some options. Martin Glover and his staff would then go and find, and Martin Glover found Abdul last season. So go and find some options, and they'll bring in option A, B, and C. And they will agree on what order those players will be for each position. And then it will be handed over to John, who will be involved in those meetings, to then go and find them, get the deals done. And obviously that's more complex than it might appear to me. Yeah. But so if you can't get A, get B. If you can't get B, get C. And if you can't get C, then we have another rethink. But that's the process. It's a collective. Like everything at Leicester City, it's a collective. So you can't pin failures on success. So the clubhouse success, it's not one person's doing. Same with failure.
Fair enough. Robert says, I called him Roberto. Why do you think there's so many experienced players that do not want to join a team like Leicester, but happy enough to pick the MLS instead? Do you think that's money or?
Yeah, a lot of times it's fine. I mean, I have to say the Premier League's the best paying league in Europe by far. I mean, normally money talks, but Leicester are not in that situation they were in 3 years ago, where they could offer great money. Where the average player in the squad was earning 50, 60 grand a week. You're going right back down now, 30 grand a week. Those are sort of areas where new signs are coming. They've got to be realistic about where Leicester are now, and that might change if they bring success to the club. So they've got to see it as a long-term project. But whereas before, they could bring in like players like Castagna and Pratt, who were established Belgian internationals, part of the golden generation, and bring them in and offer them decent money, better money than they were getting elsewhere. I mean, Castagna loved life in Italy, but he came to Leicester for the Premier League challenge and the fact that he was earning better money. So it's a different beast now, Leicester, because of that relegation. So that's why they're struggling a little bit. Perhaps they need to come down a little bit at another level in terms of the targets they're trying to get, and they might have more success. But they've been ambitious, trying to go for Carvalho, Zaha, Bergwijn, Nelson. They've been ambitious to try and get those, but perhaps it's a market too far for them at the moment.
Fair enough. Ross does ask about Weghorst. Did follow Leicester City on Instagram. I think he still does. Has there actually been anything regarding Wout Weghorst for Leicester?
I've not had that confirmed, Weghorst, and again, I think if there was a realistic opportunity, we might have heard a little bit more. But I am sure they would have inquired about somebody like him.
Fair enough. Amar does say, do you feel Sule was plan A for Rudkin, but because he'd fallen through, they're now panicking because there's no backups?
Well, I think he probably was because they went for him very early.
Spent a long while on it, didn't they?
Yeah, and then they failed in that endeavour because he chose Roma over them, and obviously what Roma can offer at the moment, Leicester aren't in that bracket where they were a couple of years ago competing against them in a European semi-final. So realistically, you can understand why he didn't pick Leicester over, because of the uncertainty going forwards. He probably looked at it as well. Are they going to get a points deduction? Is it going to be a real slog, a relegation battle? Roma aren't going to have those worries, so there's a bit more security for him. If he went to Leicester and signed a contract, he's probably going to have to agree to a relegation clause, which would reduce his wages, could dramatically impact him and his family. So all these factors are weighed in when people make decisions. It's not clear cut and it's never straightforward.
Fair assessment, that, Rob. Let's actually get on to transfers before we get on to the Premier League season itself. I'm going to start with Jordan Ayew. Obviously, the Mail is reporting that Leicester have offered £4 million for the attacker. Palace considering the bid. Fee is within touching distance of what Palace are looking for. I believe Alan Nixon was the one that reported very early on in the window to say that Leicester are interested in Jordan Ayew, as well as I think Saudi clubs are interested in him as well. He was saying that they wanted about £10 million. They're saying this evening that Leicester have bidded £4 million. Is Jordan Ayew one that Leicester are looking at? Obviously, I know he's going to be 33, isn't he, this year? Do you think Steve Cooper is looking to bring in a bit of experience of attacking as well as young players?
I think we're getting into desperation territory a little bit, to be honest. I mean, I'm not saying there's nothing in that because as I said, there's A, B, C. There's also D, E, and F.
Right, okay.
I mean, he's getting on a bit, and I hope we're not really in that sort of bracket there. I mean, I've not heard it. I heard Jordan Ayew's name mentioned earlier in the summer.
Yeah.
Not for a few weeks.
Okay.
So he was probably somebody that's been discussed, but I know, look, they're getting to the stage where they are getting desperate now, but they are determined to get somebody in because Steve Cooper needs people in with a bit of quality and a bit of experience, a bit of proven Premier League quality. But I'd be a little bit concerned.
You can tell by Rob's reaction, I don't think he appreciated that one. Sam Johnston, another one that got linked.
Yeah, I've heard that one, Sam Johnson. And now, again, I've not had that one confirmed to me, Sam Johnson, because I know Jacob Sladzic's got the injury, which is terrible for him.
How long is he out for?
6 months.
6 months.
Steve Cooper says 6 months, but anybody that's covered Nottingham Forest or knows Nottingham Forest will know that Steve can be a little bit careful on players' injuries and how long they could be out. He could be back in 3, 4. We really don't know. It's not always forthcoming. Brendan was very open about these sort of things. Enzo was a little bit more guarded. He used to say that everybody was fit, and then the amount of injuries that used to happen on a Friday afternoon ahead of a Saturday game were quite remarkable last season, and I mean that in all good faith. And I think Steve's a little bit more careful about what information he gives out about injuries as well. So, but they don't really want. Obviously, Mads is the number one.
Yeah,
Chelsea have had a little sniff around him, as you can imagine, because of Enzo. But there's a lot of. I would imagine there's a bit of concern from behind Mads who would come in. I mean, Mads is number one. There's no, he's Premier League quality. He could step up, no problem. But I think there's a little bit. I mean, I still the way Steve Cooper plays, I can't see anything wrong with Danny Iverson as the number 2 because he's a good shot stopper. He's a proper goalkeeper, and he doesn't play with his feet. But I don't think Steve Cooper has his goalkeeper play with his feet like Enzo did. So I can't see there being an issue. I don't think that's a priority. The priority is in attack. In the final, you need another winger and a centre forward and a number 10. Or high 8, whatever you want to call it in terms of the system. So I certainly wouldn't think goalkeeping is a priority for them at the moment. There's the things that they need to sort before that.
Left back, obviously that's been
I was going to say left back as well.
Has there been anyone linked with Leicester over the last few weeks regarding left back positions?
There hasn't really. No, it's been really surprising considering that the Victor Christensen experiment playing him as a left winger when they're in possession rather than left back obviously doesn't work.
Is he that type of player though? I don't think he fits that type of criteria.
He's a fullback that loves to bomb forwards.
Yeah.
But we saw that when he first come in, he was overlapping, underlapping. But when he gets into the final third, he's still 100 mile an hour. He doesn't stop.
Yeah.
He needs composure. He needs to slow down a little bit in those crucial moments and pick a pass, pick a cross. He's just like hell for leather. If Coops can work with him, Steve Cooper can work with him, then calm him down a little bit in those and maybe more clinical, then you might have a player. But at the moment, if you're going to play this way, Ricardo Pereira's got to be on the right side. He's got to be the player that's going to play high. But then Abdul's not as good playing in the inside channel as Steffi Mavididi is off the left. So yeah, it's all a little bit uncertain at the moment how they're going to go.
Renee, I'm about to ask you a question now, actually, to Rob. Wilfried Zaha. I mean, a lot of talk from the Turkish media. Nothing's been concrete over him unless John Percy said so. John Percy did say that Leicester are in talks with Wilfried Zaha. Obviously, David Ornstein was the one that reported it first. Leicester are looking to get a deal done for him on loan. We have spoke about it, haven't we, Rob? What can you tell us on Wilfried Zaha? Is it going to happen?
It's finances. It's finances. I mean, loans aren't free. Okay, you're loaning, but you pay a loan fee, and quite often that's several million as well. So it's like a small transfer fee that you pay for a loan, and then you have to negotiate how much you pay of their wages, the ratio of their wages. Now, Wilfried Zaha will be on a hell of a lot of money, more than anybody else at Leicester City, I would imagine right now.
Someone said 80 grand.
Yeah, well, I probably expect him to be on a little bit more. But then, having said that, Premier League sides loaning out players, they tend to pay more of a percentage of that player's wages when the player's going to an overseas team. I think there's the perception overseas that the Premier League is so rich that if they loan in a player back to the Premier League, then they pay 100%. So it's a question of negotiation. It's not something that's dead, but it's certainly an ongoing negotiation to see if they can get that agreed, and they can get down to a figure that is agreeable for all. And as I said, sometimes these take a bit of time. It's a bit of brinksmanship. You say, this is what I'm willing to pay. No, we're not accepting that. Okay, take it or leave it. And then as time ticks on, you might get a little bit desperate, and you might come back and go, actually, we'll pay a little bit more. And then you might get the deal done. And it all depends on the player as well. I mean, never discount the player's will. Does he want to come back to the Premier League? Does he want to play? I mean, for him alone at Leicester City isn't so much of a risk, because if they go down, he's going back to his parent club. So in that sense, it's not so much of a risk for the player. But I think that if they can pull that off, that would be a really good signing for them. 31, I know, but he's got great experience, and he knows the Premier League. I think there's 7 players that have got proper Premier League experience with like 100 appearances, but besides that, it's a very young squad. Someone like Wilfried Zaha coming in and all his experience of what he's achieved at Crystal Palace, that would be a huge boost for them. That would probably be the statement signing for them that could give them that inspiration to kick on. Yeah, I think you can imagine Zaha and Vardy linking up. That I think they would be kindred spirits, don't you?
Two shit houses in one team.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. Zaha's a guy who loves a goal against Leicester, but you'd have him in your team straight away if you had the chance to sign him.
Exactly. That's what I've always said about Vardy over the years. All the fans that boo him and give him stick every game, they love it at Vardy in their side. Leicester have been lucky to have had him for 12 years now, so going on 13, so almost as long as me. But yeah, I mean that would be the real sign. But it all comes down to finances. It all comes down to how much of the budget is there. I mean, if you do the simple math, they've sold Dewsbury Hall for 30 million just before the June 30th deadline for the accounting year to try and stave off PSR for the EFL season. Then once that finished, then obviously the amount of cuts they made, the 10 players that have left on freeze and things like that, you know, they're in a better position then to start reinvesting. But I still don't think there's pots and pots of money for them to reinvest. So, you know, I mean, clubs like Ipswich are probably, ironically, in a better position financially coming up because they've not had that long-term expenditure commitments that Leicester have had. So now they're coming into the Premier League and all their money's coming in and they're going, whoa, well, I can spend this. And they have. And there's been a lot of signings. Southampton have made a lot of signings, bizarrely about it. But, I mean, that's almost, you look at that and you think, well, they're shopping in a different market to Leicester. Leicester are trying to go for these big players with experience. They're not. It's like Leicester and those two are in a different sort of area in terms of transfers. So it's going to be interesting to see who was right and who was wrong. Are they going to have enough quality to survive? They're certainly going to have enough numbers at the moment. Leicester, a little bit short.
Yeah, the Turkish press, they're saying Zaha's keen on a move back to England. They did say that the Palace deal fell through. Negotiations for Zaha is currently continuing. They're saying the loan would cost Leicester. Some have said 8.5 million euros. Some are saying 7.5. I don't know how accurate they are. The loan fee and part of the player's salary will be paid by Leicester City. That's according to most of the reports in Turkey. But I guess with Leicester, kind of they won't mind spending 8.5 million euros instead of spending silly money. You know what they was going to spend on Sule, where you're taking a £30 million gamble here. If we could sign Zaha, maybe it'd be better for us to get cheaper options because we can still bring in more players than for the money that we was going to pay for just one player.
Yeah. I mean, this is what I was saying about loans. They're not freeze. You know, you've got to pay a fee, and then if it's a Premier League club that's coming calling, and you know, and you're a Turkish club, and you're thinking, okay, we know you've got money, we're going to ask for it. You know, but it's not. You know, it's so that I can totally see that being accurate. That they'll be looking for sort of hefty sort of loan fee, and then a big percentage of his wages to be paid as well. And Leicester just go way up if they can afford that. And I think as time ticks on, and I think you're going to find towards the end of this window, it's going to get frenetic. There'll be some comings and goings. There'll be some deals suddenly getting done because things start to fall into place. Stances are softened. People then decide, yes, let's just do it. And the ultimate decision maker at Leicester City is Top. So if Top says, right, just do it. I mean, if John says to Top, look, it's going to take a big bit of our budget. It might push us closer to PSR concerns again, but we think this player could be the one that makes the difference. Top's likely to go, okay, I trust you. Let's do it. And then suddenly deals get done. And also there's domino effects like we saw last summer when, Kiefer Moore was going to leave Bournemouth and they wanted Patson Daka in, and Patson Daka was virtually there, and then the Kiefer Moore deal fell through, so he was staying. So Bournemouth said, well, we can't afford this now. So Patson Daka was back at Leicester. These things, anything can happen towards the end of a transfer window.
It can. It's just Leicester now. Steve Cooper wants these attacking options in, and he wants John Rudkin to go out and get these deals done, which is understandable because we're lacking, aren't we, in them areas? Yeah. Obviously, we have got Fatawu, we have got Mavididi, we've got Tom Cannon. Obviously, Tom Cannon's loan sort of thing is not going to happen with obviously Vardy and Daka now injured, and it's like he obviously wants enough game time, and bringing someone like Zaha in would be better. And then talking about attackers, Fritz Romano today, another one, and journalist, one of the well-known journalists, Rob. Adam Sluzek from Bayern Leverkusen, he's now saying that Leicester and the players' camp are set to discuss contract terms. Then it will be completed. €20 million package, which works out to be £17.1 million. A loan with an obligation to buy if Leicester avoid relegation. I mean, that one seems like ongoing. What can you tell us about that one?
Well, there will be in that. If they do get relegated, there'll probably be a cut-off clause. Mm-hmm. So, if you're taking the player on loan with an obligation to buy that, I mean, Fatawu had an obligation, but there was a stipulation that he had to play so many games. So there will be clauses in any sort of agreement like that. I mean, he's certainly somebody they need, coming from a club that's had phenomenal success, very well coached. I think you could trust that he's going to come in and he is going to be a player that's going to make an impact. But as I said before, personal terms, financially, for personal terms, what's he going to be earning? How much of the Leicester City contribution to the loan is it? Are they going to be 100%? It's a scenario that's still very open. There might be an agreement between the clubs, but if there can't be an agreement between the player and the club, and Leicester, then that's one that's up in the air. But I would be more encouraged by that one. Yeah. Right now, I would probably be more encouraged. There seems to be more positivity coming out around that deal than like the Zaha one at the moment. But as I said, there's still 2.5 weeks left to go. There could be some deals, but I know it would give the club and the squad a massive boost if they could bring somebody in before the weekend. Because obviously the game playing on Monday, they've got a bit more time to do some business and get players registered.
Yeah, they have to. Is it Friday? They have to get them registered if they want to play them on Monday.
Normally for a Saturday game, if you can get them done by lunchtime on a Friday, they'll be okay. But having a Monday night game, I'd have to check, but I think that still gives Leicester a little bit more leeway, unless the Premier League have brought in a rule that says it doesn't matter when you play, which I could probably believe because the Premier League are like that. But no, I think if they could get something done over the next few days, we've still got 2 or 3 days. I mean, we were meeting Steve Cooper on Friday afternoon, so to preview his game. So we'll probably know by then what's going to be happening.
Fotis Ioannidis, if that's how you pronounce his name.
Yeah. Keep an eye on that one. That's one they're trying to do.
Obviously, Ipswich got a bid rejected for him. Do you think Panathinaikos and Leicester could get a deal done for the Greek striker?
Again, it remains to be seen on finances, but it's certainly one they're trying to do. Last I was told a couple of days ago, it was very early stages on that one. Okay. So it's conversations being had. How much do you want? How much does he want? Is he interested? That sort of scenario. Yeah, and I would keep an eye on that one again because they do need 9s and 10s.
Yeah,
I mean, so they're desperately now the Daka situation when he went off at the weekend in France. That will certainly. I mean, I don't think Jamie's too far away. I mean, if he misses Tottenham, I think he'd be back for Fulham. But you still want cover, and obviously, as we saw when Daka went off, Steve Cooper went to Mavididi rather than Tom Cannon, which would suggest that he doesn't have complete faith in Tom Cannon at the moment. Well, I don't know why, but you might as well give the lad a chance rather than, what you're going to gain from Stefan Mavididi playing number 9, giving him a bit of chance. So it's, they are getting to the stage where they need to do some business pretty quickly, and they've got a number of irons in the fire, I would suggest.
Outgoings.
Yeah, there could be. Yeah, there could be.
Which type of names do you think could be out the door? Obviously, Danny Ward, Daniel Iverson, Luke Thomas, Victor Christensen, Bubakari Samori. Where
all of them.
Outgoings?
Depending on who they bring in. Danny Ward probably needs to move on now to reinvigorate his career. I mean, he's wasted a number of years. I mean, it took him 4 years to make his Premier League debut for Leicester, and it's not been he's done brilliant things for Wales, but it's not been great for him. Luke Thomas, it looks like Luke needs to go somewhere. I don't know what another loan how that would benefit him, but it all depends on takers. But he needs to move on and get his career going. Victor Christensen is a bankable asset because the Danish international, played in the Euros, had a good season at Bologna. But I don't think this is the problem. He's probably earning more than in the Leicester paid him. Obviously, they were desperate when they signed him and Suter. He's probably earning more than they could possibly pay, and that is certainly the situation with Samare. Because he went to
Was you surprised by Suter though, Rob, going out? Was you surprised he actually?
No, because Sheffield United tried to get him last year and he wouldn't go. He had a number of options to go, but he wanted to stay and fight for his place. He thought he had a chance of getting in the team, and then he hardly played. So, but again, he was on decent money, so you're not going to take a massive pay cut to go elsewhere. And but he's on loan, so they're probably paying a small percentage of his wages. But Leicester have offered these contracts and they've got to honour them. But Samare's the one that interests me because obviously we saw the relegation season. He was very hit and miss. There was times when you thought he's a player. There was times when you thought he doesn't seem interested. And then he went to Seville and he looked back to the player that he was when he was at Lille. And then he's come back now pre-season and from what I've seen, he doesn't look any different to the Samari we saw 2 years ago. So do you cut your losses with him? Do you move him on? Personally, I think if they can, they should. But I don't think he's ever going to fulfil his potential at Leicester. So I mean, there's a number of players really, and then you've got the lads that might need a loan, like Will Alves, Ben Nelson.
Just signed a new contract, Will Alves.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, is he ready to come straight into the Premier League side? I mean, obviously he had that terrible injury, so he couldn't really have made an impact last season in the Championship, which probably would have been a good platform for him to contribute. But obviously he had a lot of injury issues, and I know that Enzo rated him highly, thought he was a talent. I think everybody who watches him can see he's a talent. Sammy Braybrook, after all the time he's missed through his knee injury, does he need a loan out now? Casey McAteer, can Casey step up again? I mean, he stepped up. He was the big surprise package for me last season. Wasn't expecting that. Wanya Marcel, we haven't seen him really, have we? So pre-season, so it's there could be potentially a lot of departure, but that would obviously mean there needs to be a lot of incomings as well to fill that squad.
I seen something the other day about Wanya Marcel, something relating to Cardiff City.
Yeah.
Has that been talked about, a loan deal to Cardiff?
I've not heard that one, to be honest. I've not really checked on that. I've been focused on some of the other ones, but I wouldn't be surprised if Championship clubs were lining up. I know there's a lot of clubs lining up for Ben Nelson. A lot of clubs, certainly Championship, that want Ben Nelson to come and have a season with them.
Yeah.
Because I think there's a real buzz about him. I even think that Leicester rating that highly that they're at the moment reluctant on letting him out until they see what the land lies in terms of their own centre-back situation. I mean, Connor Cody's injured. We don't, again, pre-season, second year running. So we don't know how long he's going to be out at the moment. So they don't want to leave themselves light at centre-back because that was the area where they, in terms of numbers, they look strong. But, you know, we're going into the Premier League season and I can't fail to remember that Wout Faes didn't really pull up a lot of trees in the Premier League last time round. Yannick was nowhere near the team at the time. You know, so there's a lot of players that got a lot to prove, you know, this time round in the Premier League. Can they really cut the mustard at the top level of English football? I until his injury, I had a feeling that Cooper really rated Cody. But he's injured now. So I would have thought Cody would have started the season. But I suspect it will probably be Wout Faes alongside Yannick for the opening game. And my worry about Yannick is he is the best centre-back on the ball. I don't think anybody could doubt that. He's really good at picking passes, playing through lines. That's why Enzo loved him. It's great when you've got 60-70% of possession in games. You're not going to get that in the Premier League. Suddenly you're going to have people running at you and running in behind you. And that's my worry about him. And that's why I wonder whether Cooper really needs to go back to his Forest model when he kept them up and go back to a back three with Yannick as the middle guy with two guys either side, whether it's Wout Faes and James Justin, who've got a bit of pace, athleticism that can help him in those situations. But when they do get the ball, let him have the ball, let him be the playmaker. But so there's a lot to think about for Steve Cooper going into the season. I mean, he's tried to play a certain way.
Yeah.
It's not looked convincing. Does he need to change it now like he did at Forest?
Let's do a little season preview then for the season. Steve Cooper's first season as Leicester manager. Leicester, it's going to be a challenging season, isn't it? Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And, you know, the squad at this minute in time is probably not Premier League ready if you look at what we've got compared to what other teams have got at this minute in time. Obviously, we're sort of the late show, aren't we, regarding transfers and that, even with getting these deals done again to strengthen our team is whereas other teams have already strengthened, haven't they, like your Southampton, Ipswich, who've also come up with Leicester. What is your expectations for Leicester this season? How do you think we'll get on and where do you think we'll finish?
Right, okay. I think it's going to be a challenge. This is going to be a tough season.
Yeah.
Fans have got to stick with the players. The fans have got to stick with the club because, you know, it's not like 2 years ago when the expectations were so high. This time round, the expectation is just to stay in the division. 17th would be a result this season to keep them in the division, especially with all the PSR stuff going on around it, and then build from that another season, and then slowly Leicester can get back to where they were before. And this club is set up to be back where it was before. It can be again, but they've just got to survive this season because this is when they're the most vulnerable. And so, you know, they might take a couple of bad results. They might take a couple of beatings. But, you know, I can remember the 14-15 season. And what was remarkable about that season, and that set the tone for the 15-16 season, was that Leicester were always in games and the fans were always, except for a couple of moments when Nigel had a little set to with some people in the Liverpool game sticks in my mind.
Yeah.
A little bit. There was a couple of games where there was a wobble. I think the fans could see that the effort was there and the players were trying and they were in games and they were just getting punished for a little bit of quality from the opposition or a little switch off for concentration. We need a season like that.
We never got battered though, did we? In that, I think
no, I can't really remember a proper beating.
No,
I see. I can remember some really unlucky games like Liverpool away when Wes Morgan headed across away and got done for handball.
were
If
like
you remember that.
two handballs, wasn't it? Danny Simpson as well, I think it was.
Yeah, there was like everything was going against them, but they were still in it and they stuck at it and they got the rewards in the end. And I think we need a season like that.
Yeah, it's a tough season. You know, you've got players coming up to the Premier League who it's their first season in the Prem, like your Fatahus, your Mavridis. You know, Tom Cannon, another one. He spent most of his career in the Championship, and with likes of Leicester and Preston. Never really got the looking at Everton. Then you've got the Acolis and Mads Hermansen, another one. And yeah, players like that who were you know, the first season's going to be challenging. You know, they'll find out about the pace of the Premier League. Obviously, the Premier League's a bit more quicker in that. And do you see the Premier League this season how it ended last season, where some people have said like the three that come up will go straight back down this season like they did last season? Do you think that's the case, or do you think it's more that Leicester can do the unthinkable again with obviously the points deduction weighing over our heads and that? Could we see a Great Escape 2.0 like 2015 where we pull it off again? Yeah. What do you reckon?
Yeah, Leicester could pull off a Great Escape. Ipswich, for me, look a little bit like Leicester did in 14-15. You know, the momentum, the camaraderie, the spirit within the camp. I think they've got a really good chance of staying up.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, you need a couple of the more established sides, or have been there 1 or 2 years, to have a terrible season like Leicester did 2 years ago. That's not impossible. There's rumours about Everton facing another points deduction. So, you know, all sorts can happen, really.
Of course. We'll break that 11-point record, won't we, Rob?
I mean, South... Yeah. Oh, yeah, well, never say never. I don't want to tempt fate. But, there could... anything's possible this season. You look at, you know, it could be a Brentford or, heaven forbid, a Brighton that suddenly have a terrible season and suddenly find themselves in the mire a little bit. Yeah, you never know. But I think at the moment, as it stands, I mean, Southampton has signed a lot of players. How do they gel? And that'll be a big question mark for me. Does Southampton, can they be up and running? Leicester seem to have had a poor pre-season. Well, they don't seem to. They have had a poor pre-season.
It kind of summed it up at the end, didn't it, to be fair?
Yeah, so, you know, I can imagine a lot of people will be writing them off, but that could be the motivation they need. People writing them off. We've seen that before.
Well, he didn't play his starting 11, did he? Maybe he's got in Spurs thinking, well that's Leicester's starting 11 that well. And then when Monday comes, it's like, well, we weren't expecting that, was we?
Well, I don't think Spurs will be expecting Ndidi to be playing number 10.
No.
So, you know, I think there'll be a lot of changes. Ricardo Pereira obviously will be starting. I mean, I can pick my team right now, but Ricardo Pereira right back.
Go on then.
James Justin left back. With Cody injured, I'd have Vestergaard and Fars in there. I think I need a bit more time to watch Akoli before I put him in. Then you have Winks as that main sitting player. He likes to have a second holding midfielder, so that'd be probably Ndidi. So that Pereira would have to push on, so Fatawu would have to come inside. Mavrididi, D Cordova-Reid, and then Cannon I would go with, but I think he's going to go with Mavrididi, unless he can bring somebody in.
Yeah, this is going to be the question. Will it be Zaha? Will it be the guy from Bayern Leverkusen? We're never going to know, are we, Rob, until these next couple of days roll on.
You never write off Vardy making it. You never know. Well, I know he's been really pessimistic about Vardy making the start of the season. But as I said before, Steve's got a reputation for not being completely transparent about injuries. You know, Jamie Vardy might make it on Monday night. He's got a couple of days extra to get fit.
What about Buonante? Do you think he'll be a starter, or do you think he'll be on the bench?
That's a bit unknown, because I don't really know a lot about the lad, because we haven't really seen him. He's only
He's
just
got
come
Premier
into the
League
squad.
experience, so hasn't he? With
Yeah, he has
Brighton.
got Premier League experience. Yeah, he could be an option.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't write that off at all. It'd be a big call, but why not? If you signed him, play him.
Here we go, Rob. Where do you think they claim their way to fame, don't they? Well, Rob, we all know Leicester and Forest. You know, it's going to be one of them, and it's Steve Cooper will want to finish ahead of them this season for sure. Can we finish ahead of them is the question. Obviously, we'll see.
Well, that might be the benchmark. If you can finish ahead of Forest, you're going to be
Steve Cooper's plan.
You're going to be surviving. I think Forest might. I mean, there's so much turmoil at that club sometimes, so much change, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of continuity. And what I admired about them for a couple of years when we went there with Leicester was that they had a real spirit about them. And it reminded me, again, I'm going back to 14-15. It reminded me of 14-15. You know, the crowd were fully behind them. Players obviously believed in what Cooper. They were motivated, and if Leicester can tap into that, they will be all right. I think Forest, they would concern me this season.
So, Rob, I'm going to put you on the spot now. Leicester's final position for the season.
17th.
I'm gonna shake hands with you now. Now I can't shake hands with
I'll
you.
take that all day long. 17th.
I'm sure we can go that way and
yeah. I'll take that all day. It's just survival.
I'll take 17.
I don't care about the cups. I don't care about anything else. Just survive.
Yeah, fantastic. Rob, thank you for coming on, mate. Before I let you go, plug the Athletic and that, so let everybody know what you do.
Yeah, the Athletic. We're owned by the New York Times now, and we do offer in-depth football and all sports now. We're branching out into tennis and all sorts, Formula One. It's a subscription service. If you get special offer, you can get it for £1 a month for a year. And we do in-depth stuff, and we cover nearly all the Premier League clubs. We've got on-beat reporters like myself doing Leicester, so it's worth checking out, I'd say.
Yeah, appreciate your time, Rob. And thank you for covering everything we said we'd talk about. And I hope that gave fans a real in-depth into what's happening with Leicester City at the minute regarding transfers and that.
Cheers, guys.
Cheers, Rob.
Thank you.
That was Rob Tanner from The Athletic. Great chat with Rob. Great interview as always to get the insight into Leicester City. Hope everyone's enjoyed this stream then of talking to Rob Tanner. If you have, remember to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're new to the channel and you haven't subscribed, there's 109 of you watching now. So if you can all hit that subscribe button, if you haven't already, it would be really much appreciated. We have gone into real in-depth tonight regarding Leicester City and transfers and getting all your answers for Leicester regarding Zaha, Ioannidis, and all them players that have been spoke about with Leicester City. The next show is Thursday. The Premier League predictions week 1, as we predict all the Premier League fixtures ahead of the weekend as the Premier League kicks off on Friday. So join me for that, 8 o'clock on Thursday. Be here and come and get your predictions in. Come and have a chat about the Premier League as always. Really appreciate everyone's time. Give Jack a like, people. Appreciate that. Cheers, Rob. Yeah, great guest as always. But no, thank you for watching, everyone. Take care. Keep it the final whistle. And good night. Hi all. Thank you for watching the final whistle. If you enjoy all our content, please remember to smash a like, share and subscribe to the channel.